Greater than the current global position dot x. So if last time it was to the right of where it is now, that means that it's moving left. And so we're going to go ahead and inverse it or flip it on the x-axis. And otherwise, that means it's going right. And so go ahead and just leave it at its normal state. And so that is really all it took in order to make this scorpion move along the path and continually face in the direction that it is currently moving. All right, enough about that. Hopefully you understood what I was doing there, and you can also make the necessary changes to your own file if you would like to do that. Let's talk about instancing a little bit. Now, I'm probably going to have to look up some things in Godot, or in Google here, because it has been a while. So let's do a little learning. Let's do this together. I'm going in and I just typed Godot engine instancing. Let's see what we can learn. Come on, Google. Don't fail me now. It would appear as though, alright, it's taking its time. Themes and nodes, let's just kind of scroll through here. Instancing by example. Oh, that is always the way to do it. Reading. I'll tell you when I get to the thing that makes the most sense here. So what I tend to do, okay, I didn't see any there that made a lot of sense for me that I needed, so I clicked at the link at the bottom that said, doing it with code. Hey, information overload. Kinda. There's a lot of stuff there. I still haven't seen how to do it with code, so let's figure it out. It's really not that hard. I think I remember how to do it. I was hoping that, okay. So the documentation here is, I'm sure it's in here, but oftentimes documentation is one thing, but your fellow developers are probably your best friend when it comes to trying to figure things out. So I would just type gd script instance scene. Look at that. Google already knew what I needed. So that one was there, and create an instance of a scene within a scene at runtime. That's basically exactly what we want to do. So it says here, create a reference of a scene. Let's look at what the answer says. So this guy mostly got it right. You need to add the bullet instance as a child of some node. Okay. And let's see if that's what's indicated here. Again, this is not even relevant, so we're not going to do that. All right, so we're going to look at this. He gave us kind of some information here. I create a reference to a scene like this, const bullet equals preload. Okay, so this is an important bit. He's preloading the scene. Let's go ahead and do that. What scene are we going to be preloading? I will show you. So we are going to first load our spawn point right here. And our spawn point doesn't really do anything, but we did give it a script, so let's go ahead and look at the script. Right now there's no code in here that we've added. This is just a default template. I'm going to clean that up because I don't, well, maybe I'll leave that. Probably not, but okay. So a spawn point, let's think about what they do. Every so often, spawn point spits out a bad guy. Now there's a couple ways it can do it. Waves can come all at once, or they can meter them out, or we're just going to start with metering them out. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to learn about timers. Well, let's go ahead and follow the instructions we saw in that web page. We're going to go const creep equals preload. It's very helpful here. It gives us all this, and that is just a lot, isn't it? So let's try to give it a little bit of instruction here. We've got resource, : and let's go to Scorpion. If I can type. I think if I right click here and I say copy path. Look at that, sort of got it. Okay, cool. So it's going to preload our Scorpion scene. That is the creep we want to do. We'll talk about how we can make the spawn points smarter. We're going to have to build up waves. We're going to have to talk about how we can do that, but not right now. Right now, we've loaded in a creep. The next thing we need to do is we know that every so frequently we want to spit out a creep. So whenever you think to yourself, man, every so often I would like to do a thing. Every so many seconds, every so many minutes, I want something to happen in the game. Just remember, what you need is a timer. So I'm going to click on my root node here, Command A or Control A. I'm going to type timer. There it is. So I've got this timer node. Now a timer has a couple of properties. Time it's got one shot, meaning it only fires once and then not again. That's useful if you want to have something happen once and control. So imagine, well, think about like a cooldown timer. You want a cooldown timer, then you make it so that you use the skill and then the timer goes down, and then when the timer goes off, your skill is ready, and you don't need to start that timer again until you've used the skill again. So a one shot is what you would want to use for that, and the wait time is in seconds. And hovering over this will actually kind of tell you that. It tells you wait time in seconds, which a lot of things in game engines would use milliseconds for this, so adjust your expectations. So I'm going to call this thing a spawn timer. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on auto start, and we're going to set the wait time is fine. I'll leave it at 1 second. Actually, I'm going to make it a half a second because I'm not patient like that. I don't want to wait. So we're going to come in here, and there's a couple things. Now we've got the timer selected. We'll click on the node tab over here, and we're going to learn about signals. So what signals are is different nodes emit signals or can respond to signals that are occurring. So you can think of them as events that occur, and if you want something to happen when something else happens, the signals are the way to do it. So when you want to do something, when your timer times out, then you select your timer, go to node, look at your signals tab here, and look at timeout. So it's going to ask me, what do you want to connect the signal? What method do you want to connect this signal to? And I'm wanting to connect my signal to a spawn timer timeout method. That looks great. And that belongs, in here what it's asking me is, there's a script associated with spawn point, and is it saying, do you want to add this method to the script associated with spawn point? Obviously that is true, I do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit connect. What do I want to have happen? Well, first off, I need to make a new creep. So I'm going to say new creep equals creep.instance. And that's pretty cool. That's it. New creep equals creep.instance. And then I'm going to say, well, let's look at because here's where the scene hierarchy comes into play. Where did we add our spawn points? Our spawn points are here, and they have a path that is a child of them. The scorpion has to be, all the creeps have to be a child of the path. So each spawn point has a path inside of it as a child, and you know what? Let's, for the sake of simplicity, we can actually name these all just paths, because they have their own. Yes. Each spawn point has a path under it. So when I pause like that, it's because I'm thinking and making sure I'm not about to say something silly. Each of these paths, I believe, is set to loop, which is maybe not what we want to have happen. Loop is actually a path follower property, but for now I'm just going to leave that on. It's going to have an interesting effect. Alright, so we're coding the spawn point. Spawn point is a path as a child, and the newly spawned creep has to be a child of that path. The reason that I named these paths all paths is because I didn't want to get into something more advanced. So what we're going to do now is, inside of here, we're going to say get node. It wants to know the name, and here it's going to be, let's see here, I think you should be able to say get node. Well, you should be able to say path because it is a child of it. Let's give it a shot. We're going to try it. This may not work. Get node path.add child new creep. Yep. Now, I very well could be forgetting something. But oh, it doesn't like what I did. Why not? Oh, because I've got these double parentheses. So you'll notice this red line indicated to me, hey, And then right down here in the bottom, kind of told me what was wrong. And I heard somebody. Because I've got, well, I've got two parentheses here. That's a problem. When I get rid of that, I bet you it goes away. All right, so we've got the spawn point. The spawn point is now every second, every half second, going to call this, and it's going to create a new creep and add that creep to the path. I think we shall find out. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's see what happens. Could also crash. Yep, there we go. You can't add a child in the base null instance on a null instance. Well, would you look at that? That's a very helpful error, isn't it? So it kind of was actually helpful. So what we have to do? Get children dot there is a function that's going to help us, and I used to know it. Get child. Maybe that didn't help. Find, is there a find node mask string? Let's look up the find node function. Okay, find node finds a descendant of this node whose name matches mask in string match. Case sensitive, but star matches 0 or more characters. Question. Oh, cool. So it's kind of like a regular expression that you can use. A regular expression is like a way to define a pattern of a string. It does not match against full path, just against individual node names. Hey, that's precisely what we need. So we want to go find node, and we want to say path, and that's cool. So if, or we could say then var path equals find node path. And what's cool is that this actually doesn't have to be done every time. We'll test that out here in a second. And then we could say path dot add child. That's great. So save and try again, and maybe, oh, we still died. Add child in base null instance. Well, that's very interesting, truly. I feel like I'm on the spot because I'm in a live stream here, and I feel like maybe I should have done my homework. But also, part of the whole reason I wanted to do this was oh, you know what? It's got a capital P, and I don't think I did a capital P. I wanted to show the debugging process, the thing where you think something should work, and then it doesn't work, and you're like, why isn't this working? And holy crap, that's a lot of scorpions! What is going to happen? They're on loops, so what you're going to start seeing here is it's just going to start piling up. Okay. Obviously, they're spawning far too quickly, and because they spawn at regular intervals and they take a certain amount of time and they're set to loop, they're just going to get denser and denser and denser. And that's cool, but I feel like our village has been overrun with scorpions long ago. We're done. We can't do anymore. So closing that. All right. So we basically have the spawn points doing part of what we'd hoped for, and the scorpion is doing what scorpions do best. It's marching along the path and attacking the village. Let's go back to our spawn point, our spawn timer. So we can now kind of talk about how we can make these spawn points customizable without having to edit code all the time. Because as fun as that is, sometimes you just don't want to have to edit code. So let's go ahead and try to figure that out, okay? So we've learned a little bit about that export var. So we're going to do that. We're going to say export var. Let's see, spawn delay, and we're gonna say it equals 1. So by default, it's gonna be every 1 second. And then on ready here, we're just gonna say, I think it's like this, spawn timer dot delay, right? Oh, wait time, yep, equals spawn delay. So what this will let us do now is we can adjust the delay time for each of these without having to go in and edit them every time. So like if I click on a spawn point, you'll see I've got the spawn delay. So this one's going to be set to 1 second. Let's go ahead and set this one to a half a second, and we'll set this one to 2 seconds. And you can see here I'm not modifying code, but each of these copies of the spawn is going to behave well, differently. You can see how that is now all behaving
differently from one another. Although I feel like perhaps I forgot to save on one of the nodes because, let's see, spawn 1 is 1 second. This one is 2 seconds. This one is also 1 second. It should have been a half a second. It will not let me do a half a second. That's very interesting. Oh, you know why? It's doing a type inference, and because I set this to an integer to begin with, it is an integer, and it is stuck as an integer. So that was a gotcha, wasn't it? I didn't know that that would happen. So now let's see if it'll let me do a 0.5. It does. How cool. All right, let's try that again. So now we should have one that's spawning them super fast, one that's spawning them kind of slow, another one that's spawning them kind of slow. That's great. That's kind of what we wanted. So we're getting close. This one reverted to 1 because I set it. It didn't know what was happening, so set that to 2. So now we've got the leftmost one is every 2 seconds. This one's every 1 second. This one's every half second. I think my demonstration is actually going to go as I expected this time. Yeah, you can see they're all spawning at different rates. So that's pretty cool. They're all working as we'd hoped. All right. Now, what's cool is that the spawners can actually modify the scorpions before they create them. So you could do something like this. You could say new creep dot speed equals. Ooh, let's make them spawn in really fast. Let's make it so that that's customizable. Export var creep speed. This is not a thing you would probably want to do in an actual game. I would say that's probably not a good idea. But I mean, who knows? Maybe your game does have certain spawn points spawning faster guys. I don't know. It's gonna be your game. So creep speed is 2 on this one, and creep speed is 1 on this one, and we'll leave it on as 5 on that one, and we'll see that some of these creeps are really friggin' fast, and some of them are much slower, and some of them move at the speed that we had seen before. The fast one is looping, and you can see now that this makes a big difference in the danger of these creep spawners, doesn't it? Okay, so that's pretty cool. We'll set these all back to 2, and yeah, I'll just leave that at 2. I'm gonna leave that customization in place because it's kind of fun to show how you can add all these little knobs to different nodes in your, but by knobs I mean things that you can tune or tweak. You can add these all to your different nodes, and it keeps it so that once you set it up, you actually have a lot of flexibility and versatility in what you build. So instancing went pretty quick. It really wasn't that hard. Although finding it on the internet was a little bit weird, and it wasn't super straightforward. I'm sure it's out there. There's great examples. But basically, I just had to preload a scene, and then that created a variable that I could use. And then you call the instance function on that node. It will create a new copy of that node that you can then add as a child to an existing node, which puts it on the map. So that's pretty cool. All right. The next thing that we were hoping to maybe knock out this time was maybe our first tower. Do we have any other nodes that we haven't really finished building out? We've got build points, home base. Doesn't really do anything yet. Doesn't have like hit points or anything. Well, okay, let's go ahead and make a tower, and then that will get us to where we can start thinking about hit points. And then maybe next time we can talk about heads-up displays or the HUD. So we do not have an idea already for a tower, so let's go ahead and start a new node and create a 2D scene. I'm going to call this Archer Tower. So I think that's where we're going to build first here. The Archer Tower, well, what's it going to need? It's probably going to need a sprite to represent the tower itself, so let's go ahead and add a sprite. It might be an enemy sprite, but I think there are animations for the towers, so let's just start with that. I'm gonna start with an animated sprite, and let's see here. We'll go into our assets, towers, Archer. Ooh, look at that ping. Hey, look at all those. That's a lot of stuff, but do we have animations for these guys? I got little arrow dudes That's pretty cool. All right, so that's helpful. That means that each of these little arrow dudes. Oh, we get to customize our towers. Cool. Okay, I'm just excited, man. We got good assets here. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's just pick one. I like the looks of this guy. Yeah, let's bring this guy out. Cool, man. So I'm just gonna drag him out on the scene. This is going to be, I'm gonna call it the tower sprite because I just want to be able to keep track of what it is. Remember, I was silly. I dragged it out there instead of dragging it into the texture here, so it was not centered anymore. So I go ahead and center that. And you know what? While I'm at this, I'm gonna show you guys a little something else. So you'll notice that right here, what I'm doing is I'm hitting the V key, as in very, or Victor, and as I do that, it's moving the center of this object to wherever my mouse cursor is. What's kind of neat about that is this really only comes in handy if you start doing rotation on nodes. So like, what if you wanted to rotate a node around a specific point on the node? Then you would set your center here. And this can be particularly useful if you want to be able to control, well, like for instance, if I add this guy and I add it to a spawn point, when I click on the spawn point, which is exactly what we're going to do. We're not going to worry about resources and cost. We're just going to make it so if I click a spawn point, it's going to drop an archer tower in there, and the archer tower is going to start doing its thing. I don't want to have to like move the archer tower around, so we might have to manipulate where the center of that sprite is in order to make this happen. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and move it back to 0, 0. And now 0, 0 is kind of the center bottom of that tower. That's neat. All right, next, we're going to have little archer dudes. So let's call this archer dude. And I'm just going to leave it like that. And he doesn't have any frames yet, so we're going to go ahead and give him some new sprite frames. Click on that, and I've got this. And I'm going to have idle, and we're probably going to have fire. Cool. So we're going to have, they've got kind of two modes. They're either just standing there doing nothing, or they're shooting. These look like arrows, which is interesting. Here's an arrow. There's some cool stuff we can do with math to make it so that the arrows actually arc. So we may do that instead of using up, down, either way. You know, there's two different ways of doing it. So here's an idle dude. Let's just go ahead and set idle to a single frame animation. I really don't see any of the rest of these having anything to do with idling. And then for firing, well, we're probably gonna have to rearrange these a little bit, but maybe not. So let's go ahead and snag these. I'm actually gonna pick the idle one as the first frame. One moment, everybody. Hello. Doing the stream, and I was wondering if Zan was gonna tune in, so I called to remind. No, it's cool. The stream is ongoing. It's all good. Oh, it doesn't matter. He can watch it later. Ah. Well, I'm actually in the middle of the stream, so if he wants to tune in at some point, he's welcome to do so. Yeah, his call. There's so many things going on. I almost forgot to. But I'm going to get off the phone because I am in the middle of my stream, so whoever watches this is going to hear our conversation. So I'm just going to kill it, and hopefully you tune in. Okay. All right, sweet. Bye. All right, so that was one of my friends, their son's tuning in, so wanted to make sure they had the opportunity to watch as well. So let's go ahead and hit playing and watch this little dude. That little dude, I need him to be in front. Okay, that's cool. Let's make it a little bit faster. Okay, so there are two different directions here, so that's good to notice. We'll do a fire front, and we'll create another one. We'll call it fire back. This may be useful if you know, for instance, the archer tower is shooting at guys that are in front of it or above it, and we can now make that differentiation, which is pretty cool. So I'm actually gonna delete all these. I don't need all these. It's very annoying that I can't shift click. Why can't I shift? You know what? Just delete. Nope. I gotta click the trash can. It's all good. What's this do? Copy. Nope. Okay. None of those are useful. Trash. Trash. Okay, we're gonna go fire back. And I'm just gonna select these. Oh, I've got an idle front and an idle back as well. That's very neat. Okay, so let's go ahead and idle front, and we'll add one more idle back. So that's pretty cool. We've actually got 4 different states represented here. We can be facing away from the player's point of view, we can be facing toward the player's point of view, and we can be firing or we can be idling. So if we select this guy, and I'm going to, yeah, we'll just go ahead and leave all that on. If I select this guy, and right now he's playing idle back, which is very boring to watch, but let's watch what the shooting back looks like. Okay, so he's shooting. Aiming and firing front. Now you notice that one's a little bit faster. You know what? The 5 actually looks pretty good now, doesn't it? Maybe I want a little bit faster. Let's see what 8 looks like. Yeah, I like 8. 8's good. Let's make them all 8. The idle ones are completely irrelevant. Totally doesn't matter. Let's look at fire back real quick. Yeah. That looks good. So now let's grab our little archer dude and put him up here inside of our tower. Ooh, problem 1. Look at that. You know, that's too bad. That's a little bit of a challenge here with using these canned assets. We may have to construct our tower in order to make it so that our dudes are not just standing on top of the tower. I like that there's many different kinds of guys that we can use. That's pretty cool because that gives us some room for customization. Oh, check this out. They've even given us some of the UI elements that we may want to use to control here. But you'll also notice these prices are in the image, which is not great. Alright, let's go ahead and, yeah, we may have to build our own tower, everybody. That's okay. It's alright. Let's try it. Let's build our own tower. So we can pick our ladders now. Can I make these bigger? I cannot. Well, that doesn't look like a ladder at all. What is that? It's like a doorway. I don't have any ladders. Well, that is not cool. Can because really what I need is I just need the collar of this thing. I need to be able to put that in front of the archer. I'm going to worry about this in a little bit. I may have to build my own custom towers, but for now I'm just gonna plop a dude in the middle, and it's gonna look silly because he's gonna be standing on the edge. And this is archer dude 1, and we can add archer dude 2 or 3, or even better, just add a node to keep track of our archer dudes. Archers, attack. Okay, and now I can puppy paw D, command D, and we've now got 2 archer dudes. 1 archer dude is facing that way, and what's cool is now what we can do is we can say like, oh, we flip horizontal or flip, you know, so we've got lots of different customizable function features here that we can do already. We're pretty close to having a tower, aren't we? Okay, so we've got these guys, and they're both shooting, but by default they probably should be on idle front. Let's make them like that, so they look like they're kind of doing their job up there in the tower. All right, I'm gonna save this as archer tower. That's great. We're gonna go ahead and now we got to edit the build point. So let's edit the build point. Okay, we got a build point. It's collision shape 2D. That's here. That's great. Let's look at what this gives us. We've got, well, we sure don't have anywhere that gives us an on-click, do we? So there are buttons. There are UI elements, so we can do things like button. We could. That's neat. Let's go ahead and see. Let's see what the touchscreen button does, because what if we want to target mobile devices, right? Where does a touchscreen button go? It's got pressed, it's got released. It's pretty cool. Where is it? It doesn't seem to have a shape. So that's, well, that's interesting. Oh, we can give it a shape. Very cool. Let's do that. So let's do this. And you notice that thing, it's rotating around there. Let's see if this works. I can't. Shape centered. Yes. Why does turning shape centered on make it not centered? That's weird. But that's what's happening. So that is what we want. We do want the shape centered. We're now moving it around, which is cool. I do not need this collision shape because I'm going to use a touchscreen button instead. You know what? I'm sure there are people out there who knew better than me, and they know that it is not a great idea to do what I am doing here. Well, shoot. I need to edit this shape, but it is not really letting me that well. So, do this. I cannot... Am I really going to have to do that? I got to edit the shape. Okay, radius 20. Height 30. Oh, we're so close. Look at this. I didn't know you could parametrically modify this. That's pretty cool. So we actually, there you go. There's a button on the build point. That's cool. We're gonna go ahead and save. I've got this touchscreen button, and we're gonna say node. We're gonna say on pressed. Remember, these are those signals. It's like, oh, your scene does not contain a script. Okay. So to fix that, what's it yelling about? This node has no shape, so it cannot collide or interact with other objects. Consider adding a shape. Oh, that is because I made it a collision shape when I first made it, and it doesn't need to be that anymore because we've changed our approach. So node 2D. Now it's a build point. It's happy. And I am going to add a script. Build point. Sweet. Create. So here we are. And we are now almost ready to make this happen. So now we can go here and double click on pressed, or you can single click and go to connect. And here it's going to say, yep, add it to the touchscreen pressed function on the build point, say connect. I believe the touchscreen press function will also work for clicks. We are about to find out. So there's a couple things you can do. You can say, can you say log? No? Hold on. Print. Haha. Print. Yeah, print debug. Look at that. So I can print debug. You touched a... I need to put that in quotes. You touched a build point. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that did for us. So this is called print line debugging. But so all these build points should now be touchable and should, when touched, print something down here. So let's go ahead and touch some. You know what? Nothing appears to be happening, which is just not great. Well, it could be because my print debug line. I could try getting rid of it and just make it print. Let's see if that changes things. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, 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 boop. Nope. Okay, so that's not going to work. So we're not going to be able to use the touchscreen button. Why not? That's annoying, because what if you're targeting multiple platforms? You know what? Let's not make assumptions. Let's hit Google and see what the internet has to say about this. So Godot engine touchscreen button mouse click. Yeah, let's see. Everybody's saying not working. So how to enable multiple texture button? Other ways to detect a touch event other than the left mouse click. Touchscreen event handling. Let's look at the touchscreen button in the docs. Signals pressed. Emitted when the button is pressed down. Emitted when the button is released up. Visibility always. Visibility touchscreen only. It has a shape. Boy, these docs are rather slim in that they do not help me here. Touch on a texture button generates a press signal, but only because of touchscreen mouse emulation. If there's we should be able to receive. So this is okay. you know what? You could use these, but it seems like it should work, but I do know that the normal buttons will work also for touchscreens. So let's get rid of this guy. That was called going down a rabbit hole. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a button. Ooh. We'll just add a button. I was thinking we could add a texture button and have this be the texture. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Let's do that, guys. Let's do that. So we'll change the type of build point to a texture button. And now it's going to have all these different cool things. And it's going to have a textures section here. And it's got normal. If all you set is normal, then that's all it's going to have. So watch, now I can get rid of that. That's neat. And I know it looks like I've been just kind of fumbling around, and it's because I have been. I did not prepare anything because, like I said, I was really hoping to be able to demonstrate that oftentimes you do not know. You know what I shouldn't have done? I shouldn't have deleted that when I didn't know where the build thing came from. I think I found it. Okay. So we're just going to drag dot onto normal. Herein lies our first problem. It is now huge. And also weirdly not centered. So I'm sure there's a thing we can do here. Maybe there's a centered thing here. Anchor left. Maybe if I... Oh, look, I can do that. That's neat. Okay, so all I did was I moved my mouse kind of over the center, and I did that. So that's useful. Let's see what happens on the pressed event. Let's go ahead and connect it up. We'll say connect, and it's probably going to be angry about this because now this is a texture button, so we need to make sure that we change that. Okay, so far so good. We're just gonna copy this line and add it to our new function and get rid of the old one, which is no longer relevant because it was written for a node which we got rid of. Save. All right, here goes. Let's see what happened. Oh, that was a big honking button right there, wasn't it? That's interesting that it looks like that and all of them are in the middle. But hey, we are seeing a you touched a build point, so we're closer. We are closer to what we were hoping to do. How strange. They all are in weird, random places. Can we... They're also all very large. So let's shrink them a bit. By default, we can kind of maybe shrink them. It's a little interesting because it's not so easy, is it? Alright, well, the rect will allow us to do that. So we can scale it here. So I think if we do like 0.5, 0.5, yeah, okay. So that's more like it. We'll do that. Ah, look at that. That looks about right. So we can now add these kind of to their spots on the screen. I don't really care which build point goes where. I just want to put them... What in the world am I looking at? That is incredibly strange looking. And not in any way, shape, or form what I was hoping to be doing. Okay. I guess I'm not going to be selecting them on the map because that's acting very weird. Start at the top. I'm just going to arrange a couple of these. All of them, actually. So, you know, if you're watching this, fast forward. If you're watching it after the fact. If you're watching it now, I'm sorry. This is going to take me a moment as I attempt to put all of these in some semblance of order. And this is, again, you might remember back in my first video I said, hey, we're going to use the images, but normally you wouldn't want to put the build points in the image itself because then when I add these I got to line them up perfectly, and that's just a pain. Okay, let's go ahead and drop this guy here. You might notice that I'm not clicking on them as I drag them around. The reason that is I've got the move tool selected here, the move mode. You can get there by hitting W, or Q will get you to select mode, which also can do many things, but like alt drag will move it, and so on. This one's actually pretty useful, but I don't need to do that right now. So let's go ahead and hit play. And when I click on any of these, it says I touched a build point. Oh, you know what? I want to change something about our spawn points real quick, because I'm just getting tired of how many they're making. Let's export var creep count. This can be an integer equals. Let's make each one of them make 5, and then we'll do a var spawned count equals 0, and then for each time of these we'll say if spawned count is less than creep count, because it's starting at 0, remember, so the 0th one counts. We're just doing less than, otherwise we would have to do less than equal to. Tab, and assuming everything went well, then we are going to say spawned count plus plus, or plus equals 1. I think we have to do that. All right, so we do that, and what we should see now is that I can select these spawn points, and they're only going to make 5. So now we're going to have fewer creeps spitting out of them. That's it. They're all going to just do 5. Great. That is more manageable and added something useful. That was just bothering me. So we got the spawn build point. Doesn't do anything yet. We wanted to be able to make it spawn in a tower. All right, so we made the archer tower, and let's make that happen. So there's a couple ways we can do this, but we're probably going to want to use instancing. So let's go ahead and do that. We will say, let's just make a var bool. Bool is boolean, meaning true or false. Has tower equals false. You know what? I did that wrong. You can do that. Totally did that wrong. It's going to infer that it's a boolean, so it can be either true or false. You know what? I'm still not mastered Godot's typing system, so I'm not going to try to explain that to you. I will try to learn so I can explain it better next time, because right now I just don't have the answers. So right now we really only want to do it if we only want to add a tower, if not has tower, and I think you can even do not has tower. So if it doesn't have a tower, do a thing. If it does have a tower, don't do anything. And here, let's go up here, and we're going to say, remember what we did before? We said, was it const? Oh, we can take a look at our, over here we've got all of our different things. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Our archer tower, our scorpion, nope, spawn point. Here we go. Const creep equals preload, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say const tower equals preload. Oh, and you know what, that's really annoying. So we're going to say tower, archer tower, copy path. I don't want to have to try to remember that or figure it out. So there we go. And then that's going to set that up. And so now, if it doesn't have a tower, then we are going to say add child tower dot instance. We're not customizing any properties. Normally I wouldn't really suggest that you do this, but you can. So we're adding a child, we're adding the tower, and we're going to say has tower equals true. So now we should only be able to do it once. Well, let's see what happens if I touch one. Oh, boop, okay. I mean, they're not where we want them to be, but hey, that's cool. We're getting somewhere, and I think the reason for that is that these buttons, like that 0, 0 is up there. Let's figure out why that's happening. Remember I told you we may have to move the towers around? Well, I moved this tower's 0, 0, and it looks like maybe I shouldn't have. So, Control Z, let's go ahead and select this guy's node end. set that up here. Perhaps, let's see what that looks like now. If I click on one of these, oh, that's just even worse. I didn't make it any better at all. So why is that happening? I'm thinking. You guys think too. Maybe you can figure it out. Offset. I'm just gonna reset that to 0, 0. Man, Archer dudes, where are you gonna go? Maybe I should make you children of the sprite, just to keep you in my. Let's try that again. I have a feeling that that's not gonna solve the problem. That totally went in the opposite direction that I needed. So if this is 0, 0, and 0, 0's here, then why are these, I mean, they should be spawning into 0, 0. Oh, that's why. Fascinating. That was why. The offset 0, 0, whoop, centered. Oh, friggin' centered. It does it to me all the time. Okay. Grab these archers, move them back where they go. Archers. I made a mistake. I moved a lot of things around without concern to what would happen. So now I've moved everything back. You know what? We'll find out if this worked, but so close. We're just not. We're not quite there, and it has to do. Well, as you saw, we got this, but it almost looks like. What would happen if I did that? Yeah, are there ways you could do this without trial and error? Maybe. Probably. Where's the fun in that? It almost... I mean, that would probably be smarter, actually, now that I think about it. But, hey, we're getting really close. Okay, so once we figure this out, I'm probably not going to have to do this again, I hope. Yeah, you guys can laugh at me. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing it the wrong way. Ha! Look, it's in position. That's great. Towers spawning where I told them to. Obviously, they don't do a whole heck of a lot yet, do they? But it looks cool. We're getting close. It almost looks like a tower defense game, but we're not quite there yet. How do we make the archer dudes shoot? Well, for that, we'd have to implement quite a bit of extra stuff. And let's see how long we've been going right now. How long have we been going? I do not know. I have 3 viewers. Wow, that's cool. Oh, okay. So we've been going like 50 minutes. That's pretty solid. I think we may leave it at that. So for the next time, we've got a great launching off point. What we're going to be able to do... Can I add multiple towers? What we're going to be able to do is make it so that the towers actually shoot. See how I can only add 1 tower? It's not letting me add 2. That's great. And so that means that in the next one, we are going to talk about detecting when something comes within a range of the tower. And we will talk about how to use that to trigger animations on these guys to make them look like they're shooting. And that may take up the hour. If it doesn't, then we will begin to talk about the heads-up display to show that the scorpions are taking damage. Sounds like a good stopping point. We've got towers on the map, so feel free to play with that. Hopefully you were able to follow along despite all of my rambling and digging for answers. And there you have it. That is at least my process for learning how to do this kind of stuff. I hope you enjoyed, and happy gaming. Okay. I'm hoping that this worked. It says 1920 by 1080 is not optimal. Hopefully this will look better. So guys, just let me know in the chat if the stream looks any better now, because I can't see it until after the fact. Hopefully it does. I just upgraded the resolution to 1920 by 1080, and things seem to still be working fairly well. I'll come back and ooh, that looks trippy. I'll come back in here and hit play, And yeah, you can let me know if that looks better for you guys. We'll end the stream with some scorpions and building some towers. Oh no, look at that. See? Didn't see that when things were small, did I? So there we go. We've got a whole screen of creepy scorpions. Okay, killing that. Hopefully that looks better, and I will keep it at that from now on. Ending the stream. Still learning. Gonna get better every single